Grace and peace, and welcome back to the original 1611 King James Bible and the letter J. Now remember, we're going through all 4 levels, and we've just completed level 1 on communications. And now you're prepared for level 2, knowledge. So let's go get some knowledge. Now within this level, we're going to have knowledge of the ABCs of the scriptural Hebrew. We're going to look at the letter J or lowercase j and I or lowercase I in the original 1611 Gothic edition of the King James Bible, representing the J or the J sound. This is very important. So I want you to pay attention to this section here because it's going to help you when we move on further. So again, we're looking at the Holy Scriptures versus the traditions of men. Because many people also say that there's no letter J in the original 1611 in relation to the J sound or the J sound. But that's not true. And I want to examine the Holy Scriptures because Jah says we should try His word. The Scriptures say, the words of Jah are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of the earth, purified 7 times. So let's get into purifying Jah's words. So we see before you is the first opening of the 1611 Gothic edition, and you'll notice there's lots of Gentiles around and they put in their images. But also if you notice up top, they even try to squeeze in a modern Hebrew tetragrammaton to try to formulate and insert an understanding. But I find that very, very suspicious. But nonetheless, people try to use that and point out to say that that's the Most High's name. When we take a look at the table of contents of the Gothic 1611, you'll see that it has the Old Testament as well as the books that are called the Apocrypha and the New Testament. And the Apocrypha is found in the 1611 in between the Old and New Testament books, but many people don't want to use them, but they are valuable for a good read. Alright, so I want you to know that if you look in the Bible, especially in Psalms chapter 119 in particular, what you're going to see in there is the scriptural Hebrew alphabet or the Aleph Bet. This is something that is found within your King James Bibles. So I want you to take a quick look here, and then we're going to come back and I want you to just get a bit more understanding on this topic. Okay, I want to look into the scriptural Aleph Bet or the alphabet. I'm going to look at the original 1611 Gothic font with the Apocrypha, and just take a quick look at the revised 1629 with the Roman font, the revised 1638 with the updated spellings and no Apocrypha, and the New King James 1982 updated English version of the New King James Version. Now we're going to be using the King James Bible online.org website to look at these things, and we're going to be focusing, of course, on Psalms chapter 119, which has the Hebrew and scriptural Aleph Bet in there preserved. Now before we go there, I want to show you this chart that I've made because I've already examined these things and compared these versions already. And I want to let you know that if you look at this chart here in the yellow, we have the original 1611 or the 1629 and Geneva 1560 Bible with these spellings in the yellow. In the white, we have the revised modern King James versions with the 1638. And in the gray, we have the new KJV version, which is the new King James version brought out in 1982. And in the blue on the far right, we're going to be looking at the letter and approximate sounds, so to speak. And I'm not a linguistic expert, but I'm going to go through these things as best as I can as I've studied them and researched them up until this time. But I'm still continuing the research, and I pray the Most High continue to strengthen us all and guide us. Now, you'll see that there's various spellings of these letters of what is in the Psalms 119, as I said. And one main thing and our focus is going to be on this 10th letter or character. You see it is as a Ayod, Jad, and a Yod, representing the I, J, and Y. And this is very important because this letter here and character number 10, it actually has great power in reflecting how you pronounce the name of the Most High and certain other Israelite names of the Most High. So it causes quite a controversy because if it's the Iya sound, the J sound, or the Y sound. And we know that many people say there's no J sound, but when I follow that research, and this is a part of it, and there's much more to come, you'll see that there is a j sound and an ancient jod sound. But nonetheless, I'm not going to make a big fuss about that right now. We're just going to look at the yod, jod, and yod. But one thing I want to let you know is that there's another very suspect letter in character number 6. Yeah, that's it. It's the 6. It has the vav, the vowel, or the wa. And these are all pronounced this way or spelt this way in these versions. And you can see that it has these various letters and sounds that it could represent. The F, the V, the U, the W, and of course the Y. And what I think about the Y is that you have this word Y and wa that sound very similar. And when you look at the wa in some ancient, understandings, you'll see the following things. Here's a chart of Proto-Hebrew and Aramaic. I never made this chart, but I saw it, and there's a few here still. But you'll also see on this chart here that the wa, which they say is a W, it definitely does look like a Y. Could maybe even be an upside down H when you're really looking at things. And you'll also notice that's the yod right here. Here it is. They would say the yod, or the jod is what I would say to make it correct. It looks like a Y as well. This is very similar to this character. But even when you look at other understandings of these charts, and this is the Paleo-Hebrew script, and this said this was used until 1st century AD. Again, I'm using these things as references so you can take a look for yourself. Now, when we go through here, it's kind of unusual or unique that the Lamed here has that, that looks like a backwards J to me. But that's not what I'm talking about now anyways. I really want to focus on down here below the Wa, the W, and again, the Wa looks like a Y. And right beside it, we have the Yod, and it's supposed to represent the letter Y or the Y sound. And you see, here's an understanding of what people say it is in this way. And finally, I just want to take one more look at a chart. And if you look up top here at the Wa, the hook, I mean, that looks like a real letter Y, but nonetheless, if you look down here now, when we look at the Yod, and they have it with the Y representing this character here. As always, I think these things are very, very suspect, to say the least. But nonetheless, I don't want to dwell on these things, but I just want to make sure that you have an understanding that I'll be speaking about these things later on in another study. So again, when we're looking at this letter, this 10th letter, it's the 73rd verse. 7 plus 3 is 10. When we look at this 10th character, verse number 73, we'll see that it's pronounced or spelt in the original as a I-O-D. And then in the revised KJV, again, it's the J-O-D, the Jod. This could be the Eod. And we have in the New King James Version and Hebraic versions the Yod as well. Again, with the little, Hebrew so-called character to give it some flavor. So this is what I wanted to point out. So I hope you got some understanding and you continue to learn to grow. Bless up. Okay, here we are at the KingJamesBibleOnline.org website for the original 1611 King James Version, and we're looking at the book of Psalms, chapter 119, looking through the scriptural alphabet, or the Hebrew alphabet. Now we'll start right off the bat. We'll look at the top. Now these letters, or the representation of these letters, the words for these letters, are written in Roman font. So I'm going to go through them quickly so you can see and also match it up with your Bible. Aleph, Beth, Gimel or Gaimel, Daleth, He or He, Vav. The V is used for a U here. So this here also is pronounced Wa or Va in some other translations. But you can see here, it's Vav. Zayin or Zayin, Heth, Heth or Het, Teth or Tet. And remember we had the Iyud, the Jad or the Yod. We have Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun or Nun, and again there's the V representing the U sound. Samek, Ayin or Ayin, Ayin, Pe or P, Sadi or Sadai or Sadai or Sadi, Kof, Resh or Resh, Sheen or Shin, and Ta. Here it says Tav, but the V again has the U, Ta. Also, it can represent the W. So you can see we went through all of these letters that are in Psalms 119. Now again, we focus on that letter, the 10th letter, the letter Jad, Ayad, or Yud. And you can see that in the revised version, the 1639, it's pronounced Ayad, or spelt Ayad, I should say, not pronounced. We pronounce it as Jad. Some will say it's Yod. When we look at the original that we have now, or the modern 1611, where they updated the spellings, we have Jad. And of course, when we look at the new King James version, we have Yod, and they even give us a little character right there to try to show the representation. So hopefully you got some understanding. This is Psalms 119. We're looking at the scriptural alphabet from the KingJamesOnline.org website. I hope you got some understanding. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. So what I want to do is look at Old English in the Gothic script. And really, as I said, we're getting into the ABCs understanding. So what you see before you is the Gothic script, and it's, put out there quite normal. People know what the script is. And we're going to be focusing again on these letters here. Now you'll notice that this is I and J, of course. And you'll notice that this J, the capital J here, has 2 strokes to the left, whereas the capital I has 1 stroke. Now this understanding wasn't utilized in the 1611 at all. They only made the difference into this now. So what you'll see normally is that the letter I, or even J, so to speak, will look like this. I mean, to me, it looks like a J anyways more than an I, but nonetheless. But also I want you to focus how this letter I here is different than the letter J here. The J does have a little tail, and you'll see this difference in this study. And we can't forget about the letter G, because it also carries the J sound as well, as we know. Again, we're going to be focusing on the lowercase I and the lowercase j and the sounds that they represent, because this study here, when I say it gets intense, it really does. So we're going to just look at quickly a brief list of words spelled with a G representing the J sound in the 1611. So it'll be words like gender, and you can see I put in the brackets, the J with it. It's the same thing. And you're going to see the Roman script and the Gothic script here used, seasoned throughout, just to give you a full understanding. We have genealogy, also spelled genealogy, general, generation, even Gentile, gentle, education, and the word education is in the Apocrypha as well, but this word education has a J sound, soldier, age, and knowledge, as well as angel, religion, and of course judge, which is one of the big words here that kind of stand out when you're talking about the J sound, because it has 2 J sounds in it. As well, we're going to look at words spelled with an I representing the J sound in the 1611. Now I'm not going to do this in the study, I'm just giving you a list right here. Jealous, you can see spelled with an I in the original 1611 in the Gothic script, or jaw, spelled this way, jawbone. Again, we're using the Roman and the Gothic script, just to give an understanding. Jeopardy, jesting, jewels. All these words we know are pronounced with a J sound. They never ever pronounced these words with a Y sound at all. No one said yellis, jeopardy. Journey, spelled with an I. Joy, judge again, just, justice, justification, juice. Aijalon, majesty, sojourn. Javelin, rejoice and reject. All these words that you'll see in the red in particular are spelt that way, but they reflect the J sound. It's quite obvious. Nobody said react, rejoice, javelin or iavelin. There was no Y sound dealing with this letter I in the beginning. I'm going to talk about certain rules that I've discovered as well. So let's now go into the book and take a look. We go through and it says, to the Most High and Mighty Prince James. Now, isn't it kind of unusual that we pronounce it King James? So when you see this I, everybody knows it's James. No one ever says Yames. And even though the word James could be Jacob, when you do the translation, because James and Jacob, are translations, so to speak, not good ones. People would say Yakub as well. But everybody knows when they see this letter I in James, it has the J sound. Quite clear. Again, we spoke about it before, but look at that. We have the genealogies. Again, that's the J sound. And I just spelt it this way, just so you can see that when people talk about no J and no J sound, they're not really opening up their mind to a more deeper understanding. It says here, the newly translated out of the original Greek and with former translations diligently compared and revised by His Majesty's special command. So let's look at some words here as we're going in. Original, they spell it with a G, but we know it has the J sound. It's not oregano. Diligently, right? Also not diligently. And even the word majesty is not majesty or majesty. It's majesty. The I carries the J sound. As well as you see it down low as well. Again, majesty, and it's spelled majesty. And even the F and the S, as you can see, were used differently. The F had an S sound when it was inside a word. Not all the time, but many times. And so now we look at the first chapter of the Bible. We got chapter J. The J was used also as a 1 in ancient, Roman. It was like it dealt with the first and the prime. And I and the J also represented 1. This is the first book called Genesis, as you can see. Genesis with a J, not Genesis. And I know in the Hebrew it's Bereshith. But remember, we're dealing with the English here in particular, and we'll deal with the Hebrew another time. So you look at the bottom when we're going through these scriptures here. You have on the left, again, the top, you have the Roman script that deals with the introduction of the chapter. And then you have the Gothic when you look at it. But also notice that you have that chapter 1, chapter I. 1 and I were the same thing. And again, the J had that 1 is like an I as well. So there's something to think about here. So this is the Roman script, and this is the Gothic script. Now here's a grammatical rule I learned from this research. If there is a double I or double I, the second I has the J or the J sound. So for example, when we look at words or names like Elijah in the Gothic, the second I here would carry a J sound. And this is going to be proven in this study. Abijah is Abijah, Uriah is Urijah. So now let's look at Elijah and Elijah. We see in 1 Kings chapter 17 verse 1, it's spelled Elijah, E-L-L-I-A-H, right? Elijah. But we see also it has Elijah. But let's take another look at something here. When we look at 2 Kings chapter 2, we can see again the Elijahs in the Roman script in the introduction. But I want you also to look at the 5 times that this word Elijah is translated, or Elijah is translated Elijah. You can see here E-L-I, that's a J-A-H, Jah. There's another one right here, and another one below it. Also, there's another one up top here, Elijah, and another one right there, letting us know that that double I, the J, carries that sound. And what you're going to see is that the name Jah, when we're talking about this letter J here, it's usually found in the name Jah. Now let's look at Nehemiah or Nehemiah chapter 12, and we're going to be focusing on Abijah equaling Abijah. You'll see in verse 4 it has Abijah, 2 I's. And then later on in verse 17 we have Abijah, and this is now the second I is with a J there, and there's the name or the word Jah once more. Again, anytime you see this letter J, for most part, it's dealing with the Father's name Jah. This is why I think that they're trying to hide something. This is Abiam, also equal to Abijam in 1 Kings chapter 15. We see up top we have Abijam, right, with the J sound in the description up top in the Roman font. And then we see right here in verse 1 it says Abiam, a double I. But when we look up top here in verse 31 you have Abijam. So we have Abiam double I's both here. We have Abijam with a J, and right here again Abijam, giving us Abijam. Noticing again the word Abiam and Abijam are also the same person as Abijah and Abijah. They're all the same. Alright, let's continue. Let's look at Urijah or Uriah. Nehemiah chapter 3 verses 21, we have Uriah, double I, as you can see. And as well in Nehemiah chapter 10 verses 10 we have Hodiah, because when we look at Hodijah and Hodiah or Hodiah, we go to Nehemiah chapter 8, we see Uriah is equivalent to Urijah, Urijah, as you can see, the J is there again. And when it comes to Hodiah, we have in the same chapter, verse 7, Hodijah. So look how many Jahs we have, Hodiah, Hodijah. And this is the understanding and this rule that I've seen. So now when it comes down to this, we can see that the IAH will equal the JAH many times, if not, it should always, right? But we'll notice that the IAH is never Yah. It will never ever be Yah. The I isn't used in the beginning of anything for the letter Y at all. So I just want to let you know that there's 10 names that have the letter J or Jah in it in the original 1611, and these 10 names you see on your screen, they also appear many times. So I would say almost over 20 times, 30 times we have the name Jah in there. So we have Abia being Abijah, and I'm going to show you the rest. I've showed you 3 or 4 just now, and following this, the other 6. Abiyam's Abijam, Adoniah is Adonijah, Ahiah is Ahijah, Eliah is Elijah, Hodiah is Hodijah, Malchiah is Malchijah, Tobiah is Tobijah, Uriah is Urijah, and we have Urijah, and that's the only time it's spelled. There's no Uriah, it's only Urijah. And then we have Ayalan and Ajalon. So quite a lot of information here dealing with the names that have the letter J in it, and also how it's dealing with the Jah. So let's look into the last 6 names that I never covered, and we're focusing again on the Ayah equaling Jah, that way in the 1611. And once you've seen this, we'll be prepared to get ready to complete level 2 and move on to level 3. Now here we are on the King James Bible online website. It's located at kingjamesbibleonline.org, and I'll put that link in the description below. So here we have 2 standards, the normal KJV standard and the original 1611 standard that came with the Apocrypha. We're up here now in Joshua, the book of Joshua. Notice it's spelled with an I-O-F-H-U-A. It's Joshua, right? And here we're going to take a look at A-I-I-A-L-O-N. Ayalon. It's really Ijalon, but notice how it's spelled there. And now we're going to go to another chapter dealing with the same Ijalon. And we're in the book of Joshua once again. Jalan. A-I, notice the J, Jalan. Let's continue going through. Here we are in Kings chapter 1. And I want you to notice at the top here, you have Abishag with the F. You also have Adonai Jah. And one of the things about the J being in the original 1611, and when people say it's not in there, it's usually found in the name Jah. And that's why we believe that this name Jah has been hidden, and not just, in terms of mispronounced with a Ya or an Aya, but it's actually being suppressed, Adonai Jah. So when we stay in here this chapter, we even see here up in the comment section, verse 50, it has Adonai. Notice again, it's Adonai Jah. When we go down to verse 5, you'll notice that it's A-D-O-N. Now it's a double I-A-H. So it's Adonai, Adonaiah that way. However, when we go over to the next chapter, you will see that again, there's an issue here. So we're in 1 Kings still. We have again Adonai Jah, right? And we go down to the next page. Again, we got Adonai Jah's request. So notice again, it's Jah both times. Now, let's go to chapter 14. Notice in chapter 14, it says Abijah. We have Abijah, and we also have Ahijah, which we can see there with the Jah in it. All right, let's go to another chapter in Kings, 1 Kings 17. Notice at the top right away, we have Elijah. Again, Elijah. When we bring it down, chapter 17, in the comment, we have Elijah once again. Now you'll notice here in the very first verse, notice it's spelled E-L-L-I-A-H. Eliah, right? Eliah, that way. All right, so we're going to stay there for a second. And then when we go to our next chapter in Kings, we're still in Kings, as you can see. We go down. We have here again, for Elijah, it says Elijah sacrifice, right? Elijah's sacrifice. Turning the page, notice it says Elijah fed. So Elijah, the I, A-H represents a J, A-H. Elijah. And as well, when we go down, we have Eliad, a double I. But notice, even down at the bottom here, it has Elijah. So lets us know that this J, this I here has the J sound. Elijah. That's what it's all about. Okay, so let's go to 2 Kings now. So in here, 2 Kings 10, we also have a few more Elijahs. So you'll see right here we have verse 36, E-L-I-J-A-H. Notice the J is different than the I. Elijah. And then of course in this Roman script here, in the summary, we have Elijah one more time. And then when we also look across to verse 10 here, we have another Elijah, E-L-I-J-A-H. All right, so now let's keep going through. We have 2 Kings chapter 16. And you'll see Urijah here, or Vrija. And right here, this is supposed to be Urijah, but it's Vrija. But we know then Again, there's the J-A-H, Uriah. And he's also called in other places Uriah. But anyways, let's go to verse 10. And Ahaz begot. Notice it says Uriah. So again, letting us know IAH, the J and the I are interchangeable. It depends on where they are located in the name or the word. Okay, so let's go now to 2 Chronicles chapters 10 and 11. Notice it says chapter 11 here, 10 for the X and J for the 1. Okay, so we have here in verse 15, we have in verse 15 Ahijah, A-H-I, notice the J, A-H, Ahijah. That's what's written there. Chapter 10 of Ezra, and we look near the end of the chapter, we're going to go to verse 25. And you notice with verse 25, we have, it says Malchiah, but right underneath it, we have Malchijah, right? I, notice the J, A-H, Malchijah. So we've had a lot of Jahs that we've seen here, in the original 1611, never mind just the J sound, right? We've had a lot of Jahs that way. All right, let's go to Nehemiah chapter 8, 4. We have again Urijah. Urijah. Okay, well now let's go to the next book, Job chapter 41. And I just want to show this word here. This is dealing with this word Jah. But it's not Jah like Jah's name. It's Jah like what's attached to your neck, to your face, to your mouth. And you'll notice here that again how Jah is spelt in verse 2. Notice Jah is spelled here, or his jaw through, or pierce his jaw through with a thorn. Jah is I-A-W, and they have an E on it, but it's for Jah, not Yah, not Ayah, but it's for your jaw. And your jaw has the same kind of pronunciation as the name of the Father, Jah. We're going to go to Psalms, and we're in chapter 22. And this is just very simple, but you notice in the beginning, A-I-J-E, I-Jaleth, Shahar. I-Jaleth, A-I-J. I'm focusing on those J's there, right? I-Jaleth. Where are we at? Proverbs chapter 30. Proverbs 30 verse 14. Right here. There is a generation, G, not a generation, whose teeth are as swords, and notice it says their jaw teeth, I-A-W, jaw. It's not their ya teeth or ayah teeth, it's their jaw teeth. Okay. Now let's go to the book of Jeremiah. And we're dealing with chapter 26. And you'll see here in Jeremiah, we got Urijah again, or Vrija. There's another Jah there for us. And then when we look at verse 26, all right, so we're in verse 20 here on the focus. Again, Urijah, U-R-I-J-A-H. J-A-H. And then in verse 21, we have another Urijah, U-R-I-J-A-H. And in verse 23, we have another one. We have U-R-I-J-A-H. So there's quite a lot of Urijahs in there, as we can see. And even just going to the top of the screen, we got Vrija or Urijah at the top header of the page. Okay, now let's go to another book in Jeremiah. So we're going to go to chapter 32, chapter 37. So I'm going to take it from verse 13. And you have here I-R-I-J-A-H, Irijah. Right, you see it there. You have it again in verse 14, I-R-I-J-A-H, Irijah as well. And let's go to Zechariah chapter 6, verse 9, verse 10. Tobijah, T-O-B-I-J-A-H, not Tobiah, but Tobijah. And also in verse 14, T-O-B-I-J-A-H, Tobijah. All right. So for the most part, you've seen many letter J's. And I know I did a video before and people thought it was not the real original 1611, of which it wasn't that time. It was the one that was in 1617, this copy. However, though, you know that we're at the 1611, and indeed the J sound and the J letter and the soft J sound and generation and judge, they're all in the King James Bible original 1611. So that's what I have for now. I'll get back to you again, but don't let nobody tell you that there's no J sound and there's no letter J. All praise to the Most High Jah and his son Joshua the Messiah, who died for our sins. Shalom. Now that you've completed this level, you've completed level 1 and level 2 fully complete, you are prepared to go on to level 3. Congratulations, and I'm glad you stuck with it this far, and I hope you've learned a few things so far, because the learning is going to increase. Bless up, and I'll see you in level 3.